Chapter 1. The Girl Who Saw Too Much. The world was too loud for Ayana. Not just the honking cars or the shallow chatter in school hallways. It was the unseen noise, vibrations in people's hearts, colors behind their eyes, memories they didn't even know they carried. She felt them all like wind against her skin. To others, Ayana was strange. Her long black hair often braided with shells or feathers, her notebooks filled not with notes, but strange symbols and spirals of galaxies. She didn't speak much, not because she couldn't, but because words felt too small for the things she felt. Every morning she walked barefoot to school, her shoes hanging by her bag. The concrete hurt, but it made her feel real. Her favorite part of the day was passing the cliff's edge where the ocean roared. It always spoke to her, not with words, but with feeling, comfort, memory, power. At school, Ayana was invisible, or worse, a target. Other students mocked her drawings, whispered about her behind lockers. They called her the sea ghost. Once, a girl threw her book into a puddle and laughed. Ayana didn't react. Not because she was numb, but because inside, she knew they didn't understand. They've forgotten who they are, she wrote in her journal that night. They are asleep in dreams they didn't choose. She often wondered if she too was asleep. Sometimes she'd dream of temples beneath the ocean, glowing scripts dancing in the current, her hands holding a glowing orb of water that pulsed like a heartbeat. When she awoke, her skin would still feel damp, as if the dream had been more than dream. There were other things too, like the time she touched a dying flower and it bloomed, or the time she cried into the sea and dolphins appeared near the rocks, or when she meditated for the first time and felt something spiral open at the top of her head. Sensation so beautiful, she sobbed with joy. Her mother once called her touched by the gods, but now, even she avoided Ayana's strange behavior. Alone in her small bedroom, lit only by moonlight and a salt lamp, Ayana would sit cross-legged and whisper to the universe, "If I don't belong here, show me why I came." That's when she began drawing eyes, hundreds of them, some human, some not. Eyes with spiral pupils, eyes with moons reflected in them, eyes shaped like portals. She didn't understand why, but each one felt like a piece of her memory returning. One eye in particular kept repeating. It was ringed with silver water and had a tiny star in the iris. She didn't know whose it was, until he arrived. Chapter 2. The Boy with the Storm in His Eyes. He arrived on a day the sky couldn't decide if it wanted to rain or shine. Ayana sat alone on the worn wooden bench outside the school courtyard, sketching waves that curled like they were alive. The clouds above were heavy, gray-blue, trembling with thunder. The air smelled like salt, though the sea was miles away. Something in her chest stirred. Then she heard it. "Hey, that's beautiful." She looked up and froze. He stood before her, drenched from the rain that had started moments ago. His uniform clung to him, and his hair was messy, wet, falling into eyes that weren't quite human. His irises shimmered between turquoise and silver, like the ocean under moonlight. Ayana blinked, unsure if her mind was playing tricks again. He smiled, gentle, knowing, sad. "You're drawing the ocean," he said softly, sitting beside her without asking. "You can hear it too, can't you?" Her hand trembled. No one had ever said that before. No one could know that. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who remembers," he replied. The rain fell harder, yet they stayed. The world around them blurred, classmates running for cover, thunder rolling far away. But the two of them sat still, staring at the same sky. A connection pulsed between them, a vibration Ayana could feel in her bones. It wasn't attraction in the human sense. It was recognition. Her dreams flickered behind her eyes. Temples, pearls, the sound of whales singing in the dark. And suddenly, she knew his name before he said it. "Kaiv," she whispered. His eyes widened, then softened with relief. "You remember?" In that moment, lightning split the clouds, and the sound that followed wasn't thunder. It was a low, haunting hum, like a whale calling across dimensions. The next few days blurred by. Rumors spread. the new boy who never spoke much, who always seemed lost in thought, who sometimes disappeared near the lake behind the school. Ayana watched him from afar. Every time their eyes met, time seemed to bend. She began hearing whispers in her dreams again. The veil is thinning. The tide returns. One afternoon, after another long day of taunts and whispers from bullies, Ayana found herself cornered behind the gym. The leader of the group sneered, grabbing her notebook and ripping a page. "Look, the sea witch drew another spell?" he mocked. Ayana tried to grab it back, but they shoved her, laughter echoing through the empty hall. Then suddenly, wind. It roared through the corridor like a living thing, scattering papers everywhere. The boys stumbled back, terrified. A figure stepped forward from the end of the hallway. Kai. But his eyes weren't human now. They glowed soft but fierce like stormlight. "Touch her again," he said quietly, "and the sea will remember your names." The bullies froze, the air heavy with something ancient. Then, as if awakened from a spell, they dropped everything and ran. When silence returned, Ayana looked up at him, trembling. "What are you?" He smiled faintly. "The same as you, lost between worlds." That night, she couldn't sleep. She went to the lake behind the school, the one that shimmered strangely under the moonlight. Kai was already there, barefoot, staring at the water's surface. "You came," he said without turning. "The sea called you too." Ayana stepped closer. The water rippled, though there was no wind. Their reflections shimmered, overlapping until it looked like one being. "Why does it feel like I've known you forever?" she whispered. "Because you have," he said. "Before this life, before the human world, we were one." He reached out his hand. "Do you want to remember?" Ayana hesitated, then placed her hand in his. The moment their fingers touched, the lake exploded into light. The water spiraled upward, wrapping them both in glowing waves. She saw flashes, two figures beneath the sea, crowned with shells and starlight, a kingdom of coral glowing like fire, a prophecy whispered by ancient whales. The prince and princess of tides, separated by the veil of forgetting, must reunite when the world drowns in illusion. The vision faded, but Ayana's heart beat wildly. She was crying without knowing why. Kai wiped a tear from her cheek and smiled softly. "Welcome home, Ayana." And then they both fell, not into the water, but through it. Chapter 3. The Forgotten Kingdom Beneath the Waves. Ayana did not fall. She returned. Water closed around her body, yet there was no fear, no struggle for air. The ocean welcomed her gently, like a mother receiving a child who had been gone too long. Warmth spread through her chest, and light bloomed all around, layers of blue, emerald, and soft gold pulsing with quiet awareness. When she opened her eyes, her body was no longer human. Where her legs had been, a long iridescent tail moved effortlessly. Scales reflecting memory rather than light. Ancient symbols shimmered faintly along her skin, responding to her heartbeat. Her hair floated freely, dancing with the current as if it had always known how. She felt no shock, only recognition. Before her stood Kai, but not the boy from school. This Kai carried centuries in his gaze. A crown of living coral and starlight rested upon his head, shifting subtly with the water. His presence was calm, vast, and steady, like the deep ocean itself. "Do you remember?" His voice echoed inside her mind. Ayana nodded slowly. "Not everything, but enough." He smiled gently. Awakening comes in tides. Around them, the forgotten kingdom revealed itself. Crystal towers rose from the ocean floor, glowing softly from within. Bridges of light connected coral palaces. Ancient guardians slept curled around temples, their slow breaths shaping the currents. The entire city hummed with a low, harmonic song that resonated directly with Ayana's soul. "This place was never meant to rule," Kai said. "It was meant to remember." Memories stirred within her, standing beside Kai not as rulers, but as guardians. Councils of beings from many realms. A world above slowly forgetting its unity, replacing truth with fear and separation. "So we chose to descend," Ayana whispered. "Yes," Kai replied. To forget ourselves, because only those who forget can truly teach remembering. Suddenly, the water at the kingdom's edge darkened. A distortion rippled through the currents like ink in clear water. The Shadow Queen Kai said quietly, "She feeds on forgetting." Fear rose, then dissolved. Ayana placed her hand over her heart. Light radiated outward, igniting the symbols on her skin. The city responded. Towers brightened. Guardians stirred. "I didn't come back to hide," she said steadily. "I came back to remember and to help others remember who they are." Kai bowed his head, not as a prince to a princess, but as one awakened soul to another. "The sacred union begins within," he said. "When inner division ends, outer unity follows." Above them, the surface shimmered, the human world still asleep. Ayana looked upward, knowing now, their love was not an escape. It was a mission. Chapter 4. The Veil Between Worlds. Ayana felt the pull before she saw the surface. It was gentle but insistent, like a tide calling her upward. The light above shimmered, thinning, and the forgotten kingdom began to soften around her, not fading, but folding inward, as if it existed beyond time rather than beneath the sea. "You must return," Kai said softly. Her heart tightened. "Already?" "Yes," he replied. "Remembrance must be carried into forgetting. That is how worlds heal." Ayana looked around the kingdom one last time, the glowing towers, the ancient guardians, the living light etched into stone and water. She understood now that this place did not disappear when unseen. It lived within her. Kai reached for her hands. When their palms touched, energy surged, not passion, not longing, but alignment. Two frequencies locking into harmony. "Remember this," he said. "We are not separated by distance, only by awareness." The water brightened suddenly, spiraling upward. Ayana felt her body shift, light folding inward, scales dissolving into skin. The ocean released her gently. She woke on the shore near the lake, human once more, breath steady, heart racing. The night air was cool. Stars shimmered above her like open eyes. For a moment, she wondered if it had all been a dream. Then she felt it. A quiet hum in her chest, a warmth behind her eyes, a knowing deeper than thought. The world looked the same, trees, water, distant lights, yet everything felt thinner, as if reality were a curtain instead of a wall. In the days that followed, strange things began to happen. Ayana noticed her thoughts shaping outcomes. When she moved with fear, obstacles appeared. When she moved with calm intention, paths opened effortlessly. People around her reacted differently too, some drawn to her presence, others uncomfortable without knowing why. "The world mirrors vibration," she wrote in her journal. "What I believe, I broadcast." Dreams returned stronger than before. She saw symbols, spirals, gates opening within the heart. She heard the ocean speaking in silence. Separation is an illusion maintained by belief. At school, the bullying softened, not because people changed, but because Ayana no longer resonated with it. Their words passed through her like wind through water. One evening, standing before a mirror, she looked into her own eyes and finally understood. She was not here to escape the world. She was here to wake it up, far away, beneath layers of shadow and distortion. The Shadow Queen watched the currents shift. A crack had formed in the veil, and through that crack, light was returning. Chapter 5. The Law of the Inner Tide. Ayana began to notice the pattern. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was subtle, precise, and undeniable. Life responded not to her words, but to her state. When she moved through the day carrying doubt, small resistances appeared, missed buses, misunderstandings, sudden fatigue. When she centered herself, breathed, and aligned inwardly, reality softened. Doors opened. People smiled without reason. Timing bent. One afternoon, sitting alone beneath a tree near the lake, Ayana closed her eyes and listened. Not outward, inward. Beneath her thoughts, beneath emotion, there was a steady current, calm, aware, powerful. This is the true self, she realized. And this is what the world responds to. That night, Kai appeared in her dream, not as a memory, but as presence. "You are learning the law of the inner tide," he said, standing beside her in a vast ocean of stars. "Humans call it the law of attraction, but attraction is only the surface." "What is beneath it?" Ayana asked. "Resonance," Kai replied. "The world does not give you what you want. It reflects what you're aligned with." Images unfolded around them, people chasing love while believing they were unworthy, seeking abundance while fearing loss, praying for peace while holding inner war. When the inner ocean is turbulent, Kai continued, the outer world mirrors chaos. When the inner ocean is still, reality reorganizes itself naturally. Ayana felt the truth settle into her body. This was why awakened souls were often misunderstood. Their presence disrupted unconscious patterns. Their calm exposed inner noise in others. "Is that why some people feel uncomfortable around me now?" she asked. "Yes," Kai said gently. "Not because of who you are, but because of who they are not yet ready to face." The next day, Ayana tested it. Instead of reacting to negativity, she observed it. Instead of forcing outcomes, she aligned her intention and released attachment. The results were immediate. Conversations softened, solutions appeared. Synchronicities followed her like quiet confirmations. She wrote in her journal, "I am not manifesting things. I am remembering who I am," and the world adjusts. But not everyone adjusted peacefully. Some people grew distant. Others projected fear, jealousy, or judgment. Ayana felt it clearly now. Awakened souls do not blend into sleeping systems. They activate them. Far beneath the surface, the Shadow Queen sensed the shift. Her illusions fed on unconsciousness, and Ayana's alignment weakened the web. "She remembers the laws," the Shadow Queen whispered into the dark. "And remembrance is dangerous." Ayana stood by the lake that evening watching ripples spread from a single stone. She understood now. Change never began with force. It began with frequency, and she was no longer afraid of her own depth. Chapter 6. The contracts written before birth. Some encounters felt heavier than others. Ayana began to notice it clearly. Certain people stirred emotions far stronger than the moment required. A stranger's words could echo for days. A brief argument could reopen wounds she didn't remember receiving. Even kindness sometimes brought tears she couldn't explain. One evening, overwhelmed, she returned to the lake. The water was still, reflecting the moon like a perfect mirror. "Why does it hurt if I'm awakening?" she whispered. The surface rippled. Kai appeared beside her, not in physical form, but as presence, calm and familiar. "Because awakening does not erase contracts," he said. "It reveals them." She looked at him, confused. "Contracts?" "Soul contracts," Kai replied. "Agreements made before birth. Every significant connection you experience was chosen not to comfort you, but to shape you." Images unfolded around them like moving water. Ayana saw herself before this life, surrounded by light, choosing challenges deliberately, choosing certain souls to play difficult roles, choosing moments of abandonment, misunderstanding, even pain. "They agreed to hurt me?" she asked softly. "They agreed to awaken you," Kai corrected. "Pain is not punishment. It is friction, and friction creates clarity." Ayana felt something release inside her chest. "So the ones who triggered me," she began, "were mirrors?" Kai finished. "Showing you where healing was needed, showing you where love had not yet reached." She understood now why some people left her life suddenly, without closure. Their contract had ended, others lingered longer, repeating the same lessons until she learned to respond differently. "The contract dissolves when the lesson is integrated," Kai said. "Not when the other person changes, but when you do." The next day, Ayana tested this truth. When someone criticized her, she felt the familiar sting, but instead of defending herself, she breathed and observed. The pain faded quickly, like a wave that never reached shore. Something inside her shifted. Later, alone, she wrote. They were never enemies. They were teachers wearing difficult masks, Far beneath awareness, the Shadow Queen tightened her grip on illusion. Her power relied on blame, victimhood, and unconscious repetition. She sees through the contracts, the Queen hissed. Soon, she will no longer feed the cycle. Ayana stood stronger now, not hardened, but clear. She no longer feared difficult connections. She recognized them as invitations to mastery. As she gazed into the lake, the water reflected not just her face, but light behind her eyes. She smiled softly. Nothing had been wasted, no pain meaningless, no soul misplaced. The awakening was not gentle, but it was precise, and she was ready for what came next. Chapter 7. Sacred union is not what humans think. Ayana no longer searched for completion. That realization came quietly one morning. As she watched sunlight ripple across the lake, there was no longing in her chest, no ache waiting to be filled. Instead, there was presence, whole, steady, alive. That was when she felt him again. Kai did not appear immediately. His presence arrived first, a warmth spreading through her spine, a gentle pressure at the center of her chest. Not desire, not need, recognition. You are integrating. His voice echoed within. Ayana smiled softly. I don't feel empty anymore. That is why union becomes possible, Kai replied. Sacred union is not two halves meeting. It is two completed beings choosing resonance. Images unfolded between them. She saw human love as it often existed, attachment born from fear, possession mistaken for devotion, longing confused with destiny. She saw souls clinging to each other to escape loneliness, calling it love. That is not union, Kai said. That is survival. The scene shifted. Ayana saw two flames standing apart, whole on their own, neither leaning nor reaching. When they moved closer, their light intensified, not merged, not diminished. This is sacred union, Kai continued. Two sovereign souls amplifying truth together. Ayana felt the difference clearly. Her connection with Kai was not pulling her toward him. It was expanding her outward. It did not distract her from her purpose, it sharpened it. But why does it feel so intense? She asked. Stronger than anything human? Because it activates remembrance, Kai answered. Sacred unions are catalysts. They awaken dormant codes within the soul. That is why the world fears them. Ayana understood now why such connections were rare and often disrupted. Why systems built on control discouraged depth, intuition, and inner sovereignty. The Shadow Queen fears union, Kai said quietly. Because united souls do not obey illusions. That night, Ayana stood before her mirror again, but this time, she did not search her reflection for flaws or answers. She bowed slightly, honoring herself. She felt Kai beside her, not physically, but fully. We are not meant to escape the world, she said. We are meant to change how it remembers itself. Kai's presence wrapped around her like calm ocean depth. Yes, he said. And that begins with those who remember union within themselves first. Far beyond the veil, the Shadow Queen felt the shift. This was no longer just awakening. This was alignment, and alignment could not be manipulated. Ayana stepped away from the mirror, heart steady, eyes clear. She was no longer waiting for love. She was love in motion. Chapter 8. The loneliness of remembering. Loneliness returned, but it felt different now. It was no longer the sharp ache Ayana once carried, the one born from rejection or misunderstanding. This loneliness was quiet, spacious, almost sacred. It arrived when she sat among people, yet felt unseen. When conversations floated around her without touching anything real inside. She used to think something was wrong with her. Now, she knew better. Awakened souls do not feel lonely because they lack connection. They feel lonely because they perceive through illusion. They sense the distance between who people are and who they pretend to be. One evening, as Ayana walked alone beneath a sky heavy with stars, Kai's presence returned. You are feeling the space between worlds, he said softly. I feel like I don't belong anywhere, she admitted. Not fully. That is because you no longer belong to unconscious identity, Kai replied, and you have not yet fully anchored remembrance into the human world. He showed her images, souls awakening throughout history, often isolated, misunderstood, or silenced. Not because they were wrong, but because they reflected truth too clearly. Loneliness is not punishment, Kai continued. It is the space created when illusion collapses. Ayana felt tears rise, not from sadness, but from relief. So I'm not broken, she whispered. No, he said gently. You are between skins. She understood then why old friendships faded. Why shallow conversations exhausted her. Why pretending felt impossible now. False identities were dissolving. Roles she once played for acceptance no longer fit. That night, she stood before the lake and looked into her reflection. For a moment, her face flickered. Human. Mermaid, light, shadow, all layered together. There's no separation, the water whispered back. Only forgetting. Ayana closed her eyes and breathed. She felt the truth settle fully. She was not alone. She was early. Far away, the Shadow Queen sensed the shift again. Loneliness was one of her oldest tools, convincing awakened souls they were isolated, different, abandoned. But Ayana no longer mistook solitude for abandonment. She saw it clearly now. The world was not empty. It was waking, and she was learning how to walk gently between worlds, carrying remembrance without forcing it, holding truth without weaponizing it. As she turned away from the lake, something within her solidified. She no longer needed to belong. She remembered. Chapter 9. When illusion begins to fracture. The world did not collapse all at once. It cracked quietly. Ayana began to notice it in small moments, a pause before reacting, a question forming where certainty once lived. A strange exhaustion spreading through systems that thrived on fear. People seemed more agitated lately, more defensive, as if something unseen was pressing against the walls of their reality. Illusion resists when it senses exposure. One afternoon, Ayana felt it sharply. A wave of anxiety moved through a crowded street without cause. Conversations turned tense. Faces hardened. The air felt heavy, distorted. Kai's presence emerged beside her awareness like a deep current, beneath rough water. She is reaching, he said. The Shadow Queen? Ayana asked inwardly. Yes, when illusion weakens, it tightens. Fear is her final language. Ayana understood then fear wasn't random. It was reactive, a signal that truth was approaching places unprepared to receive it. That night, Ayana dreamed of a vast mirror stretching across the sky. Cracks spread through its surface, leaking light. From behind it, a presence watched, not monstrous, not loud, but cold and precise. The Shadow Queen did not roar. She whispered. Return to forgetting, the voice echoed. Remembering is painful. Separation is safer. Ayana stood still in the dream, heart steady. For whom? She asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. She woke with clarity burning behind her eyes. The choice had arrived. Not between good and evil, but between comfort and truth. Over the next days, people around her reacted strongly to her presence. Some were drawn closer, seeking calm without understanding why. Others grew distant, irritated, even hostile. Kai's voice returned gently. When illusion collapses, it looks like chaos before clarity. Ayana stopped trying to explain herself. She stopped shrinking to ease others' discomfort. Instead, she anchored, breathing, observing, choosing alignment over reaction. Each time she chose presence over fear, the distortion weakened. Far beyond perception, the Shadow Queen felt it, a disruption she could not command. Ayana was no longer feeding the cycle of unconscious reaction. She sees, the Queen murmured, and she chooses. Standing once more by the lake, Ayana felt the world trembling, not breaking, but shifting. The surface rippled gently, reflecting both stars and darkness. She understood now. Awakening was not about fighting illusion. It was about no longer participating in it. Ayana placed her hand over her heart and whispered the choice aloud. Not as defiance, but as devotion. I choose truth. The water stilled. The crack widened, and for the first time, the Shadow Queen felt something unfamiliar. Not fear. Resistance. Chapter 10. The Weight of Conscious Creation. Awakening brought power, but not the kind Ayana once imagined. It was not dramatic. It did not feel like control. Instead, it arrived as responsibility. She noticed it the moment she stopped reacting unconsciously. Every thought now carried weight. Every intention rippled outward. The world no longer felt like something happening to her. It felt like something responding with her. Kai's presence returned one evening as she sat in stillness. You are crossing a threshold, he said. Many awaken to truth. Few accept what comes after, and what comes after? Ayana asked. Conscious creation, he replied. The moment you realize you are always influencing the field, whether we're aware or not. Images flowed between them. Ayana saw thoughts becoming emotional climates, emotions becoming decisions, decisions shaping entire lives. Humanity was not powerless, it was unconscious. When you awaken, Kai continued, you no longer create accidentally. You create deliberately, or you suffer the consequences of neglect. Ayana felt the weight of it settle in her chest. So, I can't hide anymore, she said quietly. No, Kai answered gently. Not from yourself. She understood now why some awakened souls retreated from the world, why others burned out trying to save everyone. Conscious creation required balance, presence without control, compassion without attachment. The true confrontation was not with the Shadow Queen. It was with the desire to escape responsibility. That night, Ayana dreamed she stood before a door made of light. On one side was peace without involvement, retreat, silence, separation. On the other was engagement, humanity, chaos, beauty, pain. No voice told her which to choose. She stepped forward anyway. When she woke, her decision was clear. She would remain human, not to fix the world, but to anchor remembrance within it, far beyond perception, the Shadow Queen observed. She did not fear Ayana's power. She feared her clarity. Power could be corrupted. Clarity could not. Ayana stood by the lake at dawn, sunlight breaking across the surface. She placed her hand over her heart, grounding herself into breath, body, presence. I am responsible, she whispered, and I am willing. The water responded, calm, receptive, alive. The awakening had moved beyond insight. It had become embodiment. And the world, whether ready or not, would feel the difference. Chapter 11. Service without sacrifice. Ayana began to understand the quiet trap many awakened souls fell into. They gave too much. Not out of love, but out of guilt. Not from wholeness, but from the old belief that suffering made one worthy. She felt it rising in herself the first time someone leaned too heavily on her calm, mistaking her presence for permission to unload their pain without responsibility. That night, Kai came to her again, standing beside a vast ocean that did not move. You feel it, he said. I don't want to become distant, Ayana replied. But I don't want to disappear either, Kai nodded. That is the lesson of true service. He showed her images of healers who burned themselves empty, mistaking self-erasure for compassion. Others who closed their hearts entirely, mistaking boundaries for coldness. Service without sovereignty becomes sacrifice, Kai said. And sacrifice feeds illusion. Ayana felt the truth land sharply. The Shadow Queen thrived on martyrdom, on convincing light that it must bleed to be valid, on turning empathy into exhaustion. That is her mistake, Kai continued. She believes love must cost you yourself. Ayana stood still, absorbing it. So what is real service? She asked. Presence without depletion, Kai answered. Guidance without control. Love without attachment to outcome. The next day, Ayana practiced. She listened but did not absorb. She helped, but did not rescue. She offered clarity, but released the need to be understood. Something shifted. People either rose to meet themselves or drifted away. Both felt clean. That evening, by the lake, Ayana sensed resistance weakened. The Shadow Queen had miscalculated. Her oldest weapon, guilt, no longer worked. She is not emptying herself, the queen whispered from the dark. She is anchored. Ayana placed her hand over her heart and felt it, full, steady, alive. Service, she realized, was not about fixing brokenness. It was about standing whole so others could remember they were too. The water reflected her clearly now, no distortion, no fracture. She smiled. Light did not need to suffer to be real, and the illusion had just lost one of its most powerful tools. Chapter 12. When one awakens, many stir. The change did not arrive loudly. It moved like a shift in air pressure, unnoticed at first, undeniable once felt. Ayana began to sense others before they spoke. Not their thoughts, but their readiness. Some carried restlessness. Some carried grief disguised as anger. Others carried a quiet knowing they had never been taught to trust. When she entered a space, conversations softened. Arguments paused mid-sentence. It was not all they felt, it was recognition. They remembered something near her. At night, her dreams expanded. No longer isolated scenes, but wide landscapes filled with moving lights, souls awakening in small, private moments. A woman crying alone in a kitchen, a boy staring at the stars instead of his screen, a man choosing silence instead of retaliation. Each choice sent a ripple. Kai appeared beside her in the dream field, watching the lights multiply. "This is resonance," he said. "Not influence, not force." Ayana understood. She was not awakening others, she was permission. Still, resistance thickened. The Shadow Queen felt it now. A subtle collapse in the web she had spent lifetimes weaving. People were no longer feeding her with unconscious fear. They were questioning it. "She is fracturing the sleep," the queen hissed. Not by teaching, by being. Dark currents gathered. Confusion intensified in the world above. Truth and illusion blurred deliberately. Meant to exhaust those on the edge of clarity, Ayana felt the weight of it press against her chest one evening. Not despair, but responsibility. "What if I fail them?" she whispered. Kai's voice came softly. "You are not carrying them. You are walking ahead." That night, Ayana stood at the lake again. The water no longer reflected only her face, it reflected many. Different ages, different paths, all watching, unknowingly connected. She placed her hand into the water. "I am not your savior," she said aloud. "I am your mirror." The surface shimmered. Across the unseen world, people felt a sudden stillness, a pause in the noise, a moment where breath returned to the body. The Shadow Queen recoiled. This was dangerous. Not rebellion, not war, but remembrance. Ayana straightened. If one soul could create resonance, then the awakening was no longer singular. It was spreading, and the illusion was running out of places to hide. Chapter 13. The first crack in the crown. The Shadow Queen made her first mistake the moment she chose fear. Until now, she had ruled through absence, by keeping souls distracted, divided, asleep. But Ayana's resonance had shifted the balance. Silence was no longer enough. So the queen reached outward. Dreams across the world darkened that night. Not nightmares, subtler than that. Familiar places felt wrong. Words lost meaning. People woke unsettled, unsure why their hearts felt heavy. Ayana felt it immediately. Her breath shortened. The lake near her home trembled, its surface rippling without wind. The pressure was not external, it was personal. "She's touching the inner world," Ayana said. Kai's expression hardened. "She's afraid." That realization surprised Ayana more than the attack itself. Fear was not supposed to exist at that level. The queen appeared in Ayana's dreams for the first time, not as a monster, but as a mirror distorted. Her crown was not solid gold, but fractured light, barely holding form. "You are disrupting the order," the queen said calmly. Awakened souls destabilize the system. What system? Ayana asked. The one that keeps the world functioning. Ayana stepped closer. With every step, the queen's image flickered. No, Ayana said quietly. The one that keeps it obedient. The dream space cracked. For a moment, just one, Ayana felt doubt surge through her. A sharp whisper rose in her chest. What if you are wrong? What if peace was better than truth? She nearly folded. Then she remembered the lights, the ripples, the stillness returning to people who had forgotten how to breathe. I don't awaken souls, Ayana said. I remind them they were never broken. The queen recoiled as if struck. That was the crack. Not defiance, not power, but clarity. When Ayana woke, her body trembled, not from fear, but from integration. Something old had loosened inside her. Something ancient had chosen sides. Kai placed his hand over her heart. The war isn't outside, he said. It never was. Ayana nodded. The queen had shown herself, and in doing so, she had proven one thing. She could be reached. Chapter 14. The Weight of Light. Awakening was not gentle. Ayana learned that truth. The morning after the Shadow Queen entered her dreams, her body felt heavier, as if her soul had expanded faster than her human form could adjust. Light pulsed beneath her skin, not visible, but alive. She marked you, Zephyr said softly, watching Ayana meditate near the water's edge. No, Solera corrected. She recognized her. Ayana opened her eyes. The world looked sharper now, colors deeper, emotions louder. She could feel distant hearts beating in rhythm with her own. Somewhere far away, oceans stirred. Lumeria was calling. That night, Ayana dreamed again, but this time, the dream was not a battlefield. She stood beneath an endless sea, glowing coral towers rising like living constellations. Creatures of light and water moved gracefully through currents of energy. At the center stood a throne carved from pearl and starlight, empty, waiting. A voice echoed from the depths. Heir of the eternal tide. You are late. Ayana fell to her knees. I was asleep, she whispered. The ocean did not judge. You were learning. She saw flashes, past lives as healer, guardian, watcher. She had sworn once to protect the balance between worlds. When the Shadow Queen rose, Ayana had chosen rebirth instead of war, trusting love would succeed where force had failed. Now, the cycle was closing. When Ayana woke, tears streamed silently down her face. Kai was beside her instantly. What did you see? She took his hand, pressing it to her chest. Our home, she said. The Ocean Kingdom. Lumeria. I was never just passing through this world. Kai? I was returning to it. Kai felt it then, the truth settling into his bones. You're not becoming something else, he said softly. You're remembering who you are. But remembrance carried a cost. Ayana's power surged unpredictably now. Healing drained her. Empathy overwhelmed her. Every pain in the world echoed inside her heart. The light demanded balance and sacrifice. Far away, in the void between realms, the Shadow Queen watched the ocean stir for the first time in centuries. She is coming home, the queen whispered, and this time, she would not allow the tide to rise unchallenged. Chapter 15. The Call of Lumeria. The ocean changed the moment Ayana accepted the truth. Waves no longer crashed, they bowed. Currents slowed, listening. Moonlight lingered longer on the water's surface, as if the sea itself feared she might leave again. That night, the group stood at the shore where sky and ocean dissolved into one endless horizon. The air tasted like salt and destiny. It's time, Solera said quietly. The veil is thinning. Ayana stepped forward, her bare feet touching the water. The sea welcomed her, warm, familiar, alive. A glow spread from beneath the waves, illuminating ancient symbols etched into the sand, responding to her presence. Kai watched, heart pounding. Will I be able to follow you? He asked, a rare tremor in his voice. Into Lumeria. Into your world? Ayana turned to him, eyes shining with both love and sorrow. You are never outside it, she said softly. You are bound to it, to me. As if summoned by her words, the ocean parted, not violently, not dramatically, but reverently. A path of light opened beneath the surface, revealing coral stairways spiraling downward into a glowing abyss. Creatures of light swam past, guardians, watchers, ancient beings who remembered her name. Zephyr exhaled sharply. The ocean recognizes its queen. Ayana hesitated. For the first time since awakening, fear brushed her heart. What if I fail them? She whispered. What if love isn't enough? Kai stepped into the water beside her without hesitation. The sea did not resist him. Instead, it wrapped around his legs like an embrace. Then we failed together, he said. But I don't believe that's why the universe brought us here. He touched her forehead to his. You taught me that power without love destroys itself. Let me remind you, love creates worlds. Something ancient unlocked inside her. The water rose around them, swirling into luminous currents. Scales of soft light traced along their skin, not transforming them yet, but remembering them. Breath became unnecessary. Fear dissolved. Below them, Lumeria awakened. Coral towers flared with bioluminescence. Temples rang with harmonic frequencies. The empty throne pulsed, sensing its sovereign drawing near. But not all eyes watching were filled with reverence. In the deepest trench where light had never dared to linger, the Shadow Queen rose from her obsidian seat. So, she hissed, dark water curling around her like smoke. The lost princess returns, carrying love instead of weapons. Her smile was cruel. Let us see which one survives. As Ayana and Kai descended hand in hand toward their home, the ocean trembled, not in fear but in anticipation. The final tide had begun. Chapter 16. Lumeria awakens. Lumeria revealed itself slowly, as if the ocean wished to be felt before it was seen. Coral towers rose from the depths like living constellations, their surfaces pulsing with soft blues, golds, and pearlescent pinks. Light did not come from a single source here. It flowed from everything. From the coral, from the water, from the souls that moved within it. As Ayana stepped onto the crystal path, the ocean recognized her. Currents shifted. Bells hidden within ancient shells began to sing, low, harmonic tones that vibrated through bone and heart alike. The people of Lumeria emerged from every direction, not rushing, not shouting, but standing still, as if remembering a dream they once loved. She has returned, someone whispered. Ayana felt it, thousands of hearts opening at once. Their hope washed over her like a tide, and suddenly her knees weakened. I don't deserve this, she said softly to Kai. They expect a queen, and I still feel like a girl who once didn't belong anywhere. Kai took her hands, grounding her in the moment. You belonged here long before you remembered it, he said, and so did I. At the center of the kingdom stood the throne of tides carved from ancient pearl and living light. It pulsed gently, not commanding, but waiting. Around it stood the elders of Lumeria, their eyes ancient, kind, and knowing. One does not take the throne, the eldest spoke. The throne answers the soul. Ayana stepped closer. Visions flooded her. Lifetimes of healing, protecting, loving. She saw herself choosing compassion when others chose control. She saw the moment she left Lumeria long ago, trusting that love would one day return stronger. Tears floated freely from her eyes, dissolving into light. I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid of how much I could feel? The throne glowed brighter. Kai felt something awaken within himself, memories of guarding sacred currents, standing beside her through countless cycles. The truth settled deep in his chest. You were never meant to rule alone, the elder said, turning to him. You are the meridian prince, the balance to her tide. Above them, the waters shimmered, Lumeria was awake. Its queen had returned. But far beyond the light, shadows began to move. The ocean had chosen love once more, and the Shadow Queen felt it. Chapter 17. The Queen of Shadows. The ocean dimmed as if a veil had been drawn across its heart. Light still lived in Lumeria, but it bent and trembled, sensing something ancient rising from below. Ayana felt her before she appeared, not as fear, but as sorrow layered with centuries of grief. From the deepest trench, darkness gathered and shaped itself into a throng of black crystal. Upon it stood the Shadow Queen, beautiful and terrible, her eyes reflecting abandoned hopes and frozen resolve. So, her voice echoed within Ayana's mind, the lost heir returns. You were once a guardian, Ayana said, stepping forward. Like me. I was, the queen replied, until love failed. Until free will chose ruin again and again. The water rippled with visions, fallen civilizations, power taken instead of shared, trust shattered by fear. I chose control, the queen continued softly, because love was not enough. Before Ayana could answer, shadows surged toward Kai. Dark currents pierced his protective light, pulling him down. His breath faltered as he collapsed into Ayana's arms. Kai, the Shadow Queen watched without expression. Love makes you weak. Ayana lifted her head, tears glowing as they drifted through the water. No, she said steadily. Love makes endings possible. A calm, unwavering light rose from her heart. Not violent, not blinding, but true. The shadows slowed, recoiling as if remembering something they had forgotten. For the first time, the Shadow Queen stepped back. This is not finished, she whispered, dissolving into the depths. Kai lay unconscious, his life faint but present. Ayana held him close, her resolve unshaken. I will not lose you, she vowed. Above them, Lumeria waited. The final tide was approaching. Chapter 18. The Battle of the Eternal Tide. The ocean screamed, not in sound but in force, currents clashing. Light shattering against shadow as the Shadow Queen returned with her full dominion. Darkness poured from the trenches, swallowing coral towers and turning living water cold and heavy. Lumeria was under attack. Guardians of reef and light rose to defend the kingdom, their forms glowing as they collided with waves of shadow. Temples trembled. Ancient bells rang in warning. The sea itself seemed to fracture between fear and hope. Ayana stood at the heart of it all, Kai still weak beside her. Go, he urged, struggling to rise. They need you. I will not leave you, she said. The Shadow Queen emerged again, larger now, crowned with void and rage. You see? She thundered. Love paralyzes you. Shadows struck harder this time. A violent surge tore through the water, throwing Kai forward. He cried out once, then went still. Time stopped. Ayana felt her world collapse inward. No, she whispered, reaching for him. His light flickered, fading. Something inside Ayana broke open completely. She did not scream. She surrendered. She released fear, identity, even the need to win. She opened herself fully to grief, love, and the unbearable truth of loss. Her heart cracked wide enough for something ancient to rise. Light exploded outward, not blinding, but infinite. Ayana floated above the battlefield, her form radiant, her presence calm and absolute. Symbols ignited across her skin, spinning like constellations. The ocean stilled, listening. This is healing, her voice echoed through the sea. Not destruction. She touched Kai. Light poured into him, gentle, precise, alive. His wounds sealed. His breath returned. His eyes opened, filled with tears and awe. Then Ayana turned to the ocean itself. The light spread, cleansing corrupted waters, dissolving shadow without force. Darkness unraveled, not erased but released. The Shadow Queen screamed, not in pain but in grief as her power collapsed. I only wanted to stop the suffering, she cried. And you forgot how it ends, Ayana replied softly. The darkness faded. Lumeria glowed brighter than ever before. Ayana descended, Kai rising to meet her. The ocean bowed. The tide had turned. Chapter 19. The Crown of the Deep. Silence followed the battle, not emptiness, but peace. Lumeria glowed, restored, and breathing once more. Coral towers shimmered brighter than before, their light no longer defensive, but welcoming. The ocean flowed freely again, as if released from a long-held breath. At the center of the kingdom, the throne of tides awakened. It rose slowly from the ocean floor, shaped from living pearl. Starlight and flowing water, it did not demand. It invited. Ayana stood before it, her radiance gentle now, no longer overwhelming. She felt different, lighter, clearer, whole. The Shadow Queen lay near the throne, her form no longer wrapped in darkness. She looked smaller somehow, fragile, stripped of the power that had once defined her. Ayana approached her without fear. "You don't need to carry it anymore," Ayana said softly. The pain, the control. The Shadow Queen's eyes filled with tears, the first she had shed in centuries. "I forgot how to trust," she whispered. Ayana knelt and placed her hand over the queen's heart. A warm light flowed, not cleansing, not correcting, but forgiving. The last of the darkness dissolved, releasing the grief it had been feeding on. The Shadow Queen exhaled, her body turning into light, returning to the ocean as peace. Balance was restored. The elders of Lumeria gathered, bowing not in submission, but recognition. "The tide has chosen," the eldest said. "Not a ruler, but a guardian." Ayana turned to Kai, doubt flickering briefly in her eyes. "I'm still afraid," she admitted. Kai smiled, taking her hands. "Then you will lead with compassion," he said. "That's why it's you." Ayana stepped forward. The throne of tides responded instantly, light spiraling upward, weaving around her like a living crown. The ocean itself bowed. Queen of Lumeria. Not above them, but with them. Kai stood beside her, the currents aligning around him naturally. "The sacred union is complete," the elders said. "Two tides, one purpose." Ayana closed her eyes, feeling the ocean, the world above, and every soul connected through unseen threads. This was not an ending, it was alignment. Chapter 20. Eternal Tides. Lumeria celebrated in light. The ocean shimmered with colors never seen before, golds woven into blues, starlight dancing through every current. Creatures from every depth gathered, their songs rising together in harmony. Above the coral city, the sea itself seemed to glow with blessing. Ayana stood beneath an arch of living pearl and coral, her presence calm and radiant. She wore no crown, the ocean carried it for her. Her power no longer surged, it flowed. Kai approached her through the water, steady and sure, his eyes holding the same love that had carried them through lifetimes. They met at the center of the sea. "I choose you," Ayana said, her voice carrying through every realm, not as escape, not as destiny alone, but as my equal, my mirror, my home. Kai took her hands. "I choose you," he replied, "in every world, in every form, until oceans forget how to move." The water responded. Light spiraled around them, sealing their vows not in words but in truth. The sacred union completed itself, two souls aligned, balanced, whole. The ocean bowed, currents swirling in blessing. They were bound, not by rule, but by resonance. Together, they turned toward the throng of tides one final time. Ayana did not sit upon it. She placed her hand upon its surface, sending light outward into the reefs, the depths, the human world above. Healing flowed where it was needed. Dreams softened, hearts stirred. "The task is complete," the elders said gently. Ayana smiled. "Then we return," she said. "Not to rule, but to live, hand in hand." Ayana and Kai descended into the deeper waters of Lumeria, into a life shaped by love, balance, and remembrance. The kingdom thrived, protected not by fear, but trust. Far above in the human world, tides calmed. Storms softened. Somewhere, a child looked at the ocean and felt less alone. And the sea remembered its queen, not because she ruled it, but because she loved it. End of Tears of the Tides. Happily, eternally, ever after. Thank you for enjoying the spiritual awakening story till the end. Comment what you feel about this story. And if you love my spiritual awakening stories, subscribe for more.